anything. Anything. Anything.
Well, hello, and welcome to another episode of From There to Here. I'm your host, Lawrence Temple. We have Jen Algard here. She is a friend and former co-worker of mine, and the former part is important because we're going to be talking a lot about changes and transitions. How do you know when it's time to turn the page, to go to the next chapter? That kind of thing is a big part of why I have her with us today. So, good afternoon, Jen.
Yay. Hi, Mr. Temple or Coach Temple.
How about this? Tell me this. So I don't tell the guests too much in advance, but I did tell you the one thing I normally say, which is if you had an elevator speech, only a few seconds to make someone know your existence, which is not fair, but if you had to do that, what would you say?
That is a hard one. Oh my gosh. You gave me some advance warning, but I still am not prepared. I guess I would say, just to know that once you become an adult, no one is your guardian, your secretary telling you what to do, when is the next move. It's you. And the sooner you realize that, and the sooner you realize that you will be told when it is time to change, there are no coincidences. You listen to yourself, your intuition, and leap in the net will appear. And that will take you on the journey of your life that you should be on. And that's what I've done, even though it has not been easy.
That's the perfect segue. What do you, the audience knows that we were teachers together at one point. What do you do now for a living?
Now for a living. So this doesn't feel natural to even say it because I'm 1 month in. And it's not a role I ever would have sought after. It sought me. The universe put it there. And it's something I'm still working on identifying with. But that's cool. You know, that's a cool thing to reinvent yourself, represent yourself. So anyway, I am a sales manager for a global manufacturing and fulfillment company. What does that even mean?
Right. I never heard of a manufacturing and fulfillment company. So educate us.
Yeah, it's cool. It's basically, you know, how do you get things when you order them off of Amazon, right? There's huge warehouses, you know, that do fulfillment where they house product. And then once they get orders, they ship them out. That's part of our business. That's a very small part. The other part is we have relationships in countries overseas, and we find products and bring it back into the US and sell it to them. Some of them go ahead and resell it. It's wild. It's a lot to learn about, but anything that you're going to learn about new is a new language. So that's why I taught math 17 years.
Okay.
And math was always my favorite because it is a different language. And I liked teaching people how to speak it, how to decode it. And yeah, I thought that was fun. So I think anything new you're going to enter, though, is a new language.
What I like, something that you said that I've tried to share with kids or adults, which is that when you go into a new thing, you know, it still feels, even though you've been there a while, it still feels strange. Like, I think that's why sometimes people quit things prematurely because they expect it to feel comfortable like before, but it's new. So it's supposed to feel uncomfortable. So now let's see. Now, I just from a little that I kind of learned about you, kind of towards your exit time of us working together, you've had several times where you made a move or a leap or a transition in your professional life. Can beside this most recent one, can you tell us about one in the past?
Yeah, and I like the word leap. I think that's very appropriate. I think that when people are making changes, they need to view it as a leap. I actually want to get a tattoo. I saw somebody have when I was about 27. It impacted me a lot. And it says, leap and the net will appear. And I think that's really
I
important
love
for
that. Wow.
making changes, but I've had a hard time with change growing up. My parents divorced when I was 7, so I moved from Georgia to Florida. And I think that experience definitely shaped my relationship with change.
Hmm.
um and even like going back and forth to visit one parent for a while and flying by myself, and like that was a lot of change. And so I think that I grew up disliking change, so maybe more than the average person. There are some people out there that like change.
Absolutely. Yes.
Yeah, that's me in a twisted way, but not outright. So anyway, when I finished high school, I remember I cried every day the last week of high school. And I had a very special teacher and mentor, Mr. Kotkin, and he gave me a bunch of quotes and he really mentored me through that time. Everyone else was off celebrating and partying, and I was like crying every day. And then I remember college, same thing. I cried and cried. I didn't want it to end. I didn't want to leave. So that was what I said earlier, to realize when you're a young adult and you're going through, okay, you got to change. You just graduated 5th grade. Now it's time for middle school. 8th grade. Now it's time for high school. 12th grade. Now it's time for something else. But once you get out of that, you don't have to change. Like no one really is ever forcing you in a lot of ways. Again, you can stay stuck, I suppose, but sometimes the universe moves you, and it's the thing that forces you, but anyway, I'm getting to my big move as an adult. But anything from you, because I know that was a lot.
No, no. It's interesting. I was a club sponsor in high school, and one of our students who was excellent in all ways, was involved in multiple clubs, just kind of like queen of the campus almost, had a similar experience, kind of curled up in a ball those last few days between the end of school and graduation, because didn't want things to change. And it just kind of hit her that, oh my gosh, I have a new page I got to go to. I'm not ready. She's doing fabulous things now. But I've seen that, especially with people who did well at a stage. It's not like they were a failure at the current stage. They did well here. And that's kind of why moving is scary.
Yes, it is. It makes me tear up. And I think really that, yes, I was good at being in high school. And then it was hard to leave it, right? Then I was good at being in college and it was hard to leave it. But why don't I trust myself that I can be good at the next thing too? And I'll cry when I leave it.
Oh my gosh. Yes.
And then the next thing I try, I'm going to be good at it. And, what if we trust ourselves that we will be good at it and we'll cry because everything, is bittersweet. But this isn't the last thing I'll be good at, when you make a change, I think is important.
Well, those are some powerful things that you just said right in that little line. Why don't I trust myself that I'll be good like I was last time? And you're supposed to be, I guess, sad when you leave a place, because that means you gave it your all and you were invested in it, right? If it were just easy to leave everything, maybe you didn't really care about where you were. So it's kind of good that you don't want to leave.
Yes. And you told me that when I submitted my resignation, and I will forever remember that piece. Like it's a good thing. You want to, you should be sad if you're leaving something good. But okay, so backwards a bit to my first big adult move. So I was 27 and I realized I didn't have a life secretary. Like I actually could just do whatever I wanted. I actually realized that. That's when I realized, I think my independence, my adulthood. Took me a while, I guess, but I went on a 62 day road trip. And it was awesome, very liberating. I got to just choose where I went and how long I stayed there. And so at 28, I was living a very comfortable life. I had been a teacher at an amazing school, amazing community over in Lake Mary, Florida for 7 years. And I was getting promoted to take over the student government there, which was a very long lasting honorable title. And I just saw my trajectory, of then going probably into leadership. And so I had enjoyed my road trip so much and fantasizing about other places, but I never could pull the trigger. And a lot of my friends were moving. And I thought to myself, a good amount, you know, we compare ourselves to others. And I thought to myself, why can't I move anywhere? What's wrong with me? What, you know, these 10 people moved somewhere and I haven't. And now I realize I haven't found the right place for me yet. And that sounds so cliche, but that was the truth. I didn't move somewhere just to move somewhere. I moved because it was the right place and the right time. So, yeah, I really enjoyed Denver. I went and visited there, and I wrote myself a letter. I love this about it. I'm moving next year. And it came really early. It was November 12th, 2011. And I woke up in the middle of the night and it was just urgent. I needed to move. And it transpired really quickly. A lot of things happened that if we had a whole other hour, I would love to tell you about. But it was a lot of coincidences
Okay.
that I don't believe that those are coincidences. And it was a crazy experience. So I uprooted from everything I knew. I went out there, and now I was reflecting on this morning before our call. It would have been a travesty if I hadn't moved out there and made that crazy change, because it was the
Hmm.
most beautiful thing I've ever done. It was so amazing, but it was so scary, and I almost didn't do it
Okay.
because of fear of the unknown. And now I'm like, wow, I'm so proud of myself that I did it, because it was the biggest change.
Did you have people in your life who loved you, who were counseling you not to do it? And if you did, how did you handle that?
That's a funny question, because my senior year of college, both of my parents are teachers, and they both counseled me to not become a teacher.
My dad taught 30 years in public education, and my mother taught about the same length of time in college. Both of them, same way. They did not encourage me to do it.
Yeah. And it's hard when you trust these people, you value their opinion. There's a time and place to abide by their advice, but then there's a time to follow your own gut and know that you make the best decisions for yourself. So anyway, I'm glad I became a teacher. You know, obviously that's been a beautiful blessing and taught me so much about just interacting with, you know, humans, and a lot about myself and how to be a leader and how to love. But yes, when I was moving to Denver, my mom, you know, she just loved me so much, and I lived so close to her. And I think that she was like, what are you doing? Because I sold my condo, I quit a job that I was good at. I, you know, didn't know anybody out there. I found a random roommate. I found a job um, at this school that was, you know, a village, 500 kids, 99% free and reduced lunch, 98% speakers of another language, Title I, and it was going to be hard. So it was like, what are you doing? Why are you leaving this like comfortable life that you're good at and you have a path
Yes.
upwards to something harder? Why? Why would you do that?
And see, because this breaks one of the paradigms, or I guess that's what I'm looking for. A lot of times people make a big move because they have to, because things aren't working where we are, where things stink where I am. And so it's almost easier for them to move because everyone's going to agree, yeah, things aren't good. You need to try something. But when you're going from a situation where things are good
Right.
to something risky, that's something where you get a lot more chorus of people saying, what are you doing?
Yeah. But I feel like you, as the individual making the change, get a lot more fulfillment on the other side, because you did something risky, and I don't know, that's living. You feel alive,
Yep.
you know?
Oh goodness, that's a quote. I got a tingle when you said that. That's living. That's being alive. Goodness, that's good. I get that. Um, did you have? I guess I know the answer to this. How long were you in Denver?
I got to Denver. I've never felt more alive in my life there. They say go where you feel the most alive, and that was where I did. I was there 2 years. You know, there was a billboard right before I moved there. Again, all kinds of crazy coincidences. We could have its own podcast on that story. But I was asking God for a voicemail. Like, you've given me so many signs, but I need I need direct words. You tell me, do this, you know? And I was sitting there crying and praying, and I was like, I need to go this route. No, I always go this way. No, I'm going to go this way. I went that way, and I was again like crying and praying. And I looked up, and they had just put up this new fresh billboard. If not now, when? And I was like, that's it. If not now, when will I do this? And so, you know, my dad, my stepdad, but he's my dad, he really encouraged me. I remember at this time, he's like, this is your sojourn. So how do you say that word? You would know more than me. A
That's it.
sojourn?
That's it. Uh-huh.
Yeah. Yeah. Both my parents were supportive. They were once they knew I was serious, they were like, okay, you know, we'll miss you tons, but go out there. And I just think there was this specific quote that impacted me, and I put it in my resignation letter, Donald Miller.
Mm-hmm.
But
Mm-hmm.
he says it would be a crime not to venture out. And I just think the pain of regret of not doing something is way greater than the pain that you have to go through to actually do it because of the fear of the unknown. So, yeah, I was there 2 years. Then I moved to Bozeman, Montana, and that was its own adventure.
Wow.
And then I had my first baby and moved back home. So that's kind of been my loop.
I love it. And what you're saying is absolutely terrifying to people who are so rooted in routine and security. Like, you can speak to this. I'm going by what people say. They say that particularly women, because this is going to be aired during March, Women's History Month. So I'm connecting this with some other women leaders and things like that. So they say that women tend to be more focused, or maybe society makes them focused on stability, dependability, safety, which tends to make either them more averse to risk, or it makes the voices around them say, you can't do that, you can't do that. Do
Yeah.
you, what would you talk about that aspect as far as being a woman? Do you think that makes you any more or less likely to hang on to routine?
I do. Again, it comes down to the comparison trap, you know, where I was looking at other women my age, and like they were marrying and having babies already and settling down. And I was like uprooting my life and moving across the country. And I felt like a rebel, you know, I felt like a wild child doing it just because that wasn't, I guess, typically the norm.
Mm-hmm.
Um, you know, so yeah, I think there's definitely truth to that. And you know, just to be an independent woman and not feel like you have to be connected to you know, a partner to get somewhere in life, that really is even in 2023, I feel like that's still kind of a radical idea.
Okay. That's important that you said that, because there's always a perception that things have changed or advanced so much that those perceptions aren't there. But what you're telling me is there, maybe it's better, but they're still there.
I think there's residual trails of that essence still in the air, you know, of that. So that is something you gotta deal with internally is, you know, I can make any change I want at any time I want.
Well, now how about this? Now you I wouldn't have known you if you hadn't come back to Florida. So at some point you came to Florida. So what how long were you away from Florida, and what prompted you to come back?
That was another big change that was hard. I I got a really great job out in Montana, and that's why I moved there. And also my current husband. I say I didn't move there for him, but you know, so
Well, I love that. Okay.
yeah. So I was out there 2 years and we loved it so much. But once we got pregnant with our first child, we really deliberated hard over the sacrifice and compromise of leaving somewhere that we loved, the lifestyle, the weather, the people, the scenery, our jobs, to give that up, but to get in exchange the joy of sharing those early childhood years with your parents and your grandparents. So
Yes.
ultimately, we chose to bring my parents' first grandbaby home so that they could have that time, and also my grandparents who have since passed, but they both were alive when we moved back, and we spent a lot of time over there, and it brought them a lot of joy. So that was a hard change where sometimes you feel when you have these big decisions, neither option is going to be good, right? But I think trying to reframe that in neither option is going to be bad when you're that stuck in like deadlock with yourself where you
Yeah.
can't make a decision. Telling yourself that you can't go wrong either way, they're both going to end up okay. That frame of reference like loosens it up and just makes it, I think, easier to move.
Well, I know when I talk to my own children who are adults, or particularly young people, not so much high school and stuff, but like in their 20s or 30s, and they talk about decisions and stuff, I might give my 2 cents or whatever, but I always like to come back to say blah blah blah, but it's still your choice. It's up to you.
Yeah.
I think that's so important because I think young people can sometimes feel like they don't have a choice, like they're at the whim of finances or life or whatever. And I think it's good to remind people you take all these facts, but you still get to choose.
Yeah. Yeah. My mom actually has always told me my whole life, make wise choices, reminding me I have a choice, and hopefully I make a wise one. So, yeah, my mom actually said something really cool to me this morning. She said, we were just talking about, sharing your talents out with the world, and how when you change, it's so hard. Um, I love that quote, courage is not the absence of fear, it's feeling the fear and doing it anyway. That's one thing I want to emphasize is making big changes is not like people don't wait until there's zero fear and then they're like, all right, cool, I'm going to do it. They still have the fear that anyone else has, but the difference between them and you is they do it anyway, right? You have to do it anyway amongst that incredible fear. And yeah, my mom told me, she was listening to, I forget what it was, but she said she just heard, when your soul is expanding or it's contracting. You can physically feel it.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Oh wow.
Yeah. Right? You
Yeah.
can you can feel it. And I think that sometimes we ignore the feeling when we feel it's contracting and we try to cover it up with distractions. And that might be drugs, alcohol, shopping,
Yeah.
um,
Friends,
staying really
busyness.
busy with work, going out all the time and talking with friends about other things to get over, like whatever, however people distract themselves from it.
Yes. That is I don't know. I might have to interview mom because she's dropping
She
some
wants to meet you.
science
Can we
right
go to
here.
dinner?
Wow. Um
Can we go to dinner with my mom? She really, and my husband, they want to meet you.
Absolutely. I got a part two. I got a Denver connect. I'm gonna talk to you about all this stuff off when we
Okay.
get off. Well, how about this? I always tend to toward the end always ask my guests off this. Let's say you have a friend and they have a child who's 18 and they're going to be graduating in a few months. And this kid has done all the right things in school, good grades, activities, all this, but the child is and academically able and ready to go to college, admitted. So they can't, that's an option, but they're just not sure about what they want to do with their life or even their next steps. So your friend says, hey, Jen, I respect you so much. Will you take her to dinner and you all just talk? So let's say this happens and the young, I'm gonna give her a name. Her name's Nancy. And Nancy tells you her situation. What input would you imagine you would give Nancy in this situation?
I think it's important to know at that time all you got to do is keep moving, and any step is better than 0 steps. And it doesn't mean that whatever path you start on is going to be the path that you end on. In fact, it will not be. So you just have to keep moving, take one step in front of the other, and along your way, things are going to appear to you, which will make you take rights and lefts and, 2 steps back, whichever. But you just have to put one foot in front of the other. And I would just ask her, what makes you feel alive? What do you like to do? Like, what puts you in a state of flow? Okay, you don't know. That's okay. What would a friend of yours, Nancy, say that you're good at? And why does she like you?
That's good.
Why do your friends like you? Okay, you're good at talking. Well, what could that be? I don't know. You could maybe do a podcast. You could be a counselor. You could do a lot of things, right? But you don't have to decide that today. Let's just let's try one thing. Rough draft. You get rough drafts. You get rough drafts in life,
Rough draft. Goodness gracious, you keep dropping this feet. I love how you said, wow, you get rough drafts, not finished. Oh my gosh, that's good. That you just did little Nancy and whoever else hears this a favor. That's so well said. The last thing I'll ask you is, talk to us about the feeling of being new at a place, new in Denver, new in Montana, new back here, or new at what you're doing now. Because there's some people who think if I do a new thing and it doesn't feel perfect and easy in 2 days, I made a mistake. I got to go back. Could you help that person?
Oh my gosh, that is such a misconception. I think really being able to feel all of your feelings, it's uncomfortable, but you have to be comfortable with feeling uncomfortable. And so, when I have made changes, they've usually followed a pattern of emotions. And I was thinking about this earlier. I actually had written them down. The first step is always kind of a panic and a freeze of fear. Like, can I really do this? I'm not sure. Like, am I crazy? Is this ridiculous? What are other people going to think? What if it goes bad? All that negativity bias. So you feel that. And then you feel, okay, I think I'm going to do it, but I'm real nervous, still like a lesser degree. Then it goes into, I think, bittersweet. You're starting to feel the good. You're starting to feel the bad. But then once you make the decision, it's relief. No matter how it's going, it's, I think, just a relief. The act of the decision making and the change can be so stressful on you that once you make the decision, it's a relief like no other of just, oh my gosh, I'm doing this. I'm going to stand tall. I'm doing this. And then you can start to feel the joy. But I still have felt, the hardest part of my new job is what's gone on between my 2 ears, imposter syndrome, hesitation, wondering, do other people think I'm doing a good job? Wondering, was this the right decision? Like, what if I hadn't made the decision? It's just a lot of questioning, but still, I don't tell myself, be quiet, don't think those things. I listen to myself, but then I always push it to the side and talk it back down and just say, I'm so proud of myself that I tried something new. That's it. I'm living, I'm alive, and I'm trying something new. And I'm experiencing a whole other chapter and all these new people that were existing the whole time I was existing over here in my side bubble.
Mm-hmm.
And now I've entered this world. And you know what? It gives me more confidence to possibly enter in another bubble, another world later. So yeah, it's not been a smooth road, but it's had good scenery.
One of the things that I enjoy about this podcast the most is I keep finding these similar things that our guests keep saying about their journeys, even though they have different careers, male, female, black, white, purple, whatever. and something almost everyone has talked about who has had some success in whatever their endeavor is the internal conversation, the talk,
Yeah.
talking themselves through or fighting negative thoughts, or and they're all very capable. So like the issue was never their skill or ability. It was the
Right.
thoughts that come in your head, either from other people
Belief.
or can I do this, or the things you're talking about. And their success came from making peace or making progress with that internal conversation. That came up in almost every interview in one way or
Wow.
another. So it's so fascinating to me.
That is, and that's why I'm happy you're doing this, because you're helping people go through those emotions, which are inevitable.
Inevitable.
Anything